a 2, a 3, a 4.
We are Movie Menu Reviews, the podcast that just doesn't know when to quit. On today's menu, we'll be reviewing Artemis Fowl, The King of Staten Island, and The Five Bloods. Welcome, everyone. I'm Dan the Man Muñoz, host of Movie Menu Reviews, your weekly movie news and reviews podcast, here live on Zoom. Joining me today is our senior panelist and co-host, the King of Z Island, Z.
I have an island?
Yeah, no one wants to go there, though. It's all to yourself.
I mean, that's appreciated. None of you guys are invited. That's for damn sure.
Yes. Also joining me today is my co-host, Mike Fowl.
Hey,
how's that spelled? Is it spelled F-O-W-L or F-O-U-L? So I feel like Mike would be.
It depends.
F-O-U-L.
I think when Dan was mentioning the island, I think he's talking about the island of Dr. Monroe. That's the island. You're like a half tiger, half human, maybe.
I can dig that. That sounds fun.
That does not sound fun at all. And something else that sounds not fun, maybe, potentially, we'll see. We've been gone for the past couple of weeks in light of all the events that have been going on in this world. We thought it'd probably be best in solidarity to just take the time to reflect on what's going on. But the world has continued, especially movie news. So we're going to continue with this bit of piece of movie news here. We're Gone with the Wind. It was removed from HBO Max, but in reality, it was removed so it can be added with a disclaimer. So, John Ridley, who wrote 12 Years a Slave, really wanted the movie removed for the context of the Confederacy being a little elevated in the film and how black people were depicted as slaves, glorifying that. HBO Max pulled it, but a representative of HBO Max is going to have a disclaimer from Jacqueline Stewart, an African-American film and media studies professor at University of Chicago, who will provide, I quote, "I will provide an introduction placing the film in its multiple historical contexts. For me, this is an opportunity to think about what classic films can teach us." What do you guys think about removing Gone with the Wind, to add a disclaimer in front of it to talk about education, about this film and its history?
I kind of feel like cinema, and this is, it is a known thing that, the first blockbuster was How the West Was Won. And I believe, I'm not sure if it won an Oscar, but I think it may have been one of the first to be nominated. And the movie this is the first big blockbuster in the United States. It depicted the rise of the KKK and the way that black men were being hunted down and treated, and actually treated as sex-slaved men who were hunting down women. So in the context of cinema and how cinema has a lot to it owes to the Black American community because of all its terrible depictions, and the response people had to Gone with the Wind be removed for this reason. Honestly, like, it makes sense. Like, I appreciated Disney Plus when they uploaded their past atrocities, because they uploaded it with a disclaimer saying, "Hey, this was a product of its time. We apologize for everything that it covered, but here it is." And I'm not a fan of censorship, but I am a fan of awakening the consciousness of others to the possibility that what they filmed in the past wasn't representative of the present at that time. And quite clearly in Gone with the Wind, you have depictions of, the Confederacy being showcased as like this bigger thing, being this, and of course, when you think about it within the context of how the West was won, of course it makes sense that they would film it that way. Of course the white population wanted to watch a movie about a Confederacy, and so they got that, and they got the depiction of African Americans the way they did. And so I love that we're now reintroducing this, and we're doing it in a way that sparks dialogue, and it doesn't omit from the discussion that films share a giant ass role in the way that we perceive African, and not just African, but people of color in the United States.
Also, it's a way how people reflect on history and how not just when it was made, but the time period it was set in as well.
Yeah.
People are looking to it not so much as like a documentary style, but understanding like how it was viewed back then through cinema, through film. I want to do a quick plug for our spin-off show, Movie Menu Classics. Our hosts had a good discussion about this as well. So I highly recommend our listeners to go visit episode 3. It happened one night, and Roman Holiday to also continue the discussion there.
And I was just going to say, no, actually, I'm just Mike. What about you?
Yeah, I was going to say I agree. I think a disclaimer is a good way to put it in the context of its time, and I think at the same time keeping the film itself intact. I think that's the best way, with them not getting all George Lucas on it, but
special editions,
yeah,
or even Steven Spielberg. Like
I was going to say, yeah, the Jaws,
E.T.
Right?
Or E.T. where like they have flashlights instead of guns.
Yeah. So
right.
I think it's fine, and I know we're going to end up seeing a lot more disclaimers as we go on, and I think that's a good thing to kind of put things in perspective, and that way the viewers have a better understanding of it for its time, rather than immediately attack it. You could just understand like that was the era and that was how things were, and so viewing it as like a reflection of that of the history as well. So
yeah, and like not to belittle the point and maybe go into it a little further, but just consider the zeitgeist that these films, and even all films, even modern day films, and we're talking about like 1990s, 2000s, like films like the new Rambo movie, like all those films, what they do is teach a population of hateful individuals that this was the world as they wished it was. And because the seeds of prejudice and racism is seeded in filmmaking and in television and all these things, I think a dialogue needs to be had in saying that wasn't the reality. Not everybody had a white picket fence. Not everybody felt safe in their neighborhoods. And it wasn't because of the color of or rather, it was because of the color of your skin. If you were born a certain way, without control, without, choice, you were deemed as a vicious criminal. And it really does depict how we in the population, and when we talk about defund the police, how films and TV really played a huge role into and this is something people can Google, the implicit racism that we all have. Because everybody, and this is part of psychology, part of community psychology, we're all inherently racist because of the way that the media and the way that our families raised us. But the media had a huge role in that. So talking about it is a good thing.
But I also want to include that media and television and films have also brought a lot of light and acceptance to a lot of people as well. Like June is Pride Month. Happy Pride to everyone.
Happy Pride.
Part of the LGBTQIA plus community, especially right now, that one discrimination against workplace. Congratulations.
I know. Huge.
Very huge. But film and TV has also, with more representation out there comes more acceptance. And opening the dialogue about that representation and acceptance, I think is also very important to have as well.
Right, and I think that's essentially
of,
what Netflix and Amazon
yeah,
are
exactly.
currently doing. You know, and I think that it comes a little bit late, but it's okay. Better late than never. And so Netflix created and highlighted.
It still continues the dialogue. It's added to the dialogue, continuing the conversation, moving forward.
Agreed. And you know what? The one thing, and we can talk a little bit about the impacts of George Floyd's death on us and why we didn't do the videos for the past 2 weeks. But like the one amazing thing that George Floyd's life has opened up is the dialogue of like, well, what does it look like to be represented in the media? And Netflix and Amazon have done an amazing job of really collecting a great set of films that honestly talk about what it feels like to have an African American experience. Because if you're born white or you're born Asian or you're born Mexican or you're, you know, and any person of color or not, you don't know what the life of that person is until you really start to dive deep into the media of that. And Netflix has done a great job of really, you know, creating a great list of films. I mean, they were already working on it, so it's kind of like they were building towards it. So the films on the list are 13th, The Heart Stop. The 13th movie, by the way, if you haven't seen that, prepare a tissue, prepare to stop that movie. It does take a long time to watch it because it's so difficult. Black Sheep, When They See Us, Detroit. I mean, there's just so many great movies, including The Five Bloods that we'll be talking about today. But yeah, like there's been so much of a highlight of these movies, including Pride. I believe they've even created a Pride section as well. So it's been really awesome to see this breakthrough in dialogue. What do you guys think of that?
I think it's beautiful. Like Amazon Prime has Just Mercy for free, Ali.
Thank you. I forgot about that.
I am not your Negro, Selma, like a lot of really great films as well, that for free that people can watch.
Yeah. Yeah, I think they just released Selma for free as well. Ava DuVernay has been a huge, like, I love Ava DuVernay. Like, I don't like some of her movies, but like I love that she was outspoken and said, "Make my movies free."
Yeah, but I also love her and the fact that she's part of the board now of the Academy Awards. It's great. Like I'm so happy for her career and where she's gone and where she's going, and just like everything that she has stood up for and but everything she stands for. It's beautiful and it's amazing.
Totally.
And I love the fact that they have, you know, Netflix and Amazon are taking themselves and adding to the conversation as well. Mike, what do you think about this?
No, I think it's a great thing, and I think it's. I totally agree that it continues to open up that dialogue for discussion, and it helps everyone move forward in terms of respecting each other, it helps everyone just get a better understanding of. Otherwise, maybe they wouldn't have. So having. Just having these opportunities to, as Z had mentioned, have that experience through the medium of films and stuff like that will help gain another perspective of different cultures. So, I
want to share the quote again. Another quote from Jacqueline Stewart, who will be doing the disclaimer for Gone with the Wind. She said that right now people are turning to movies for racial re-education. And the top-selling books on Amazon are about anti-racism and racial inequality. If people are really doing their homework, we may be poised to have our most informed, honest, and productive national conversations yet about Black lives on screen and off. So that just talks about the power of film. And the more accessible it is to everyone, hopefully it can, again, show representation, educate, and show humanity within each films.
Yeah. Definitely watch the 13th if you guys haven't had a chance to watch that movie. It's pretty powerful stuff, and it does put everything in context, historically in context. It does a really good job of showing you how the word criminal ended up being the representation of the N-word. And it does a really good job of kind of like showing you historically how this all fits in together. So, yeah, it's really good.
Yeah. All right. Speaking of Ava DuVernay, who is now one of the board members of the Academy Awards, the Academy Awards just announced that they are postponing their award ceremony 2 months. Amid COVID-19. What do you guys think about? Do you think 2 months is enough? So it's being postponed till April 25th, 2021. Do you guys think that's enough time, or just enough, or who cares?
I think the real answer is who knows, because we have no idea. I just heard in the news there's been more COVID-19 outbreak clusters in China, so who knows? Who knows if there's going to end up being like. I mean, I really obviously none of us hope so, but there may be a second round that none of us want. But
and I may be a doomsayer. I may be a curmudgeon when it comes down to reality and things that may or may not happen. Some would call me a pessimist. I would call myself a realist. And what I want to say is that it has not been a smart move to open up this early in the projections. If you look at the models, and I am a huge fan of science, so I go deep diving into the information provided. And honestly, we are looking at a catastrophe of reemergence of COVID-19 in the months of July, and not until next year, I would say February, do we see an actual return to movie theaters. That is a conservative look at the reality.
I was about to say, I'm like, that's like the earliest I would say. Like maybe February next year.
Yeah, and we're not covering it today, but the Tenant, which was supposed to be the movie that everybody returned to movie theaters, just got pushed back. And as we had said previously, right, we knew that was going to happen, and it got only pushed back 2 weeks. But it's going to get pushed back even further because nobody's going to go to the theater right now, especially if you know that that's a center in which you might get COVID-19. Sorry, guys.
Yeah, I agree. I think it is.
I mean,
go ahead, Dan.
Go on, Mike. Well, I was going to say, we all have to. It all depends on in like the coming weeks. Everything started opening. We're starting to see spikes. So only time will tell, really.
Yeah, and obviously this is more of a political context too, but it's not the protests, guys. It's not that at all. It's people who are going to the malls, people who are going to the bars, people who are going to all these different places. If you've
swimming
seen
pools, parties, going to the rivers, like all this stuff, like no social distancing at all.
Yeah,
no mask.
Well, and it's like I was going to say, please wear a damn mask. Like honestly, like the protesters. You see them with masks and you see them keeping distance, but then you look at pictures of bars and everyone's not wearing a mask. Are you fucking kidding me? Like, I want to go back to the movie theater, guys. I'm being selfish. Give me back my theaters. I'm thinking about building my own theater here at my house because it's just, I miss it. I miss being in a room that,
There have been some companies that are actually going out to the homes now to help give you a theater experience in the home. I've actually seen that in the news for other countries. So something that that's happening that maybe theaters can kind of look into trying to convert that home experience into a theater experience. So maybe, if they pushed on that harder, I know they were creating a box to screen films for. I know that's probably not going to happen. I know right now. They're releasing films from like $10 to $20 on all these.
I was gonna say, Mike, that's fake news. They're not making a box. That's not. It's never gonna happen. They're not doing. It got killed. It got killed.
Yeah, a lot of the directors were upset. Yeah, they were upset with the box. So,
I know AMC is kind of like I know they're going up and down. I don't know if they're completely sinking or.
Well, no, they just reported that they lost over $2 billion.
Oh, jeez. So, and I know they were the ones that were actually listed to create that box. So, yeah, we're not going to see that anytime soon. But I know we're going to see like more VOD and things like that for films. How would you guys feel about that? Like, and ending up watching Tenant online versus as we all would want to watch on a.
I mean, it's not ideal, but whatever it takes to A, support the film, and B, watch the film. So.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah. I wouldn't pay for a box. That's a ridiculous idea.
What do you, or both of you guys, what do you guys think of drive-ins?
Oh,
I think it's a great idea.
They're actually starting to open drive-ins here in California finally.
I was gonna
So,
say, yeah, because of COVID-19, I think a lot of these theaters should start shifting to drive-ins. I think that would be a much better business, was more sustainable.
the Alamo Draft House rented the Violin Drive-In for a weekend. They're doing a pop-up for a premiere of a movie, and so basically Alamo Draft House is doing that. I forget which weekend, if it's this weekend or next weekend, but there's a film that's premiering that Alamo Draft House. It's a Violin Drive-In here in LA. So
Yeah.
AMC and Edwards and all that should do the same.
I agree. That would be fantastic. I think the resurgence of an old classic means of watching a film sounds amazing and fun. I know that it's been getting incredibly popular, and I think that's exactly where we need to go.
Yeah, that would be fun. I'd be down to. We could all be each in our own separate cars, but we could go to the theater together and watch the
Watch it
movie.
together.
There you go.
Social distanced, one car space, but Yeah.
I mean, it is 6 feet, so it totally works.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Something else that surprisingly works is a new trailer for Bill and Ted's Save the Music.
Yeah.
That's a nice segue then.
Face the music. Face the music.
Face the Music, yes. Bill and Ted, Face the Music. The trailer just came out. The movie says it's set to come out somewhere 2020. We'll see if that holds as of right now. But what did you guys think of the trailer that aired this last week?
I've been looking forward to this for a very, very long time.
Mike, you let me borrow the Bill and Ted DVDs, and I still have them. You're a fan when you have multiple copies of the movie. I actually still have the other copies, so I sent you my copies. So it was funny. There was this weird deal that I forgot. I can't remember if it was Cheerios or Frosted Flakes, but they had this random deal where if you send the UPCs, they'll send you Bill and Ted the first and second film together. I was like that's completely random. So, but I collected all of them, and I kept getting copies of Bill and Ted. So Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure Part 2, Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey. So I'm a huge fan of both of those films, and I would have to say Bogus Journey is probably one of those few films where I would say it may be better than the first. It may be a sequel that is better than the first. And I agree too. Everyone remembers the whole death chess.
Yeah. which I'm very happy about in the trailer. We see
see death again.
Death returns in this third film,
Yeah.
which is fantastic. And,
all right. So, what do you guys think the movie's going to be about? So, do you think it's going to be a movie about the future or going to the future? Or do you feel like it's a multi-dimensional movie?
It seems very Avenger-esque in the sense. Hopefully this is not a spoiler for.
Oh, I don't know about Avenger-esque.
No, in the sense they have to go back in time and steal the stuff from themselves before they had it. Because
okay, sure.
They kind of ruin it in the trailer though, where they go and you get a glimpse of them in the future and they're in prison.
Yeah, they're super buff.
All, super buff. So, but I love the concept, especially after you see the end of Bogus Journey, where they do this huge song and it unites the world, and it's basically they save the world, and then in part 3 it's like they've disappointed the world, and it's funny because there's this weird I think it's what every not just musicians, but what every artist goes through, where they feel like whatever they crank out has to be the most precious, most amazing thing in the world, and when you put that kind of weight on your shoulders, it inevitably always causes writer's block, and nothing can come out. That's exactly what this film is. Bill and Ted are just so afraid to do anything, and it looks like a really fun film. So.
Yeah, I wonder, because the thing is, right, we're now post Rick and Morty. We are definitely post Rick and Morty, and Rick and Morty just did a time travel movie, and a time travel episode, and it ridicules time travel. I wonder if we can take this movie I know that it's intentionally not to be taken serious, and I love that about Bill and Ted. Because even at Bill and Ted, they really do play that stupid role at the very end of Bogus Adventure, where they're like, well, I'm going to travel back in time to leave a gun here and do this. It's so dumb, and we don't get to see that, but it's so ridiculous. And
Well,
so, like,
they also-
I'm hoping that they really can, like, bring something new to the time travel movie, because they really lampooned it incredibly well. You can't watch Back to the Future the same way after watching Bill and Ted's Bogus Adventure. Like, you really can't. So I'm really hoping they do something fun with it.
Yeah.
Well, in the new movie, the daughters also come into play. So
Yeah.
Which is interesting. I know, like, you get to see their kids, and you don't know the gender, but you do know the names. So you know that one was named Ted and one was named Bill. So Ted's you assume that it's his son, but Ted's son is named Bill and Bill's son is named Ted. So it's interesting how they're going to do a twist on just their names. I'm curious. So,
I mean,
they
Billy,
showed-
yeah.
don't they show the daughters? I thought
no,
they
thought
showed the
they-
daughters.
well, they don't. So, if you remember, so in the first film, their girlfriends are from the Middle Ages, which they bring to modern time.
That's right.
And then they actually they're on stage and they don't know how to play guitar, so they travel back in time and they train for 2 years. So the audience basically sees them vanish for like 10 seconds, and they come back and they're guitar virtuosos, and they have kids. So, and they have babies on their backs, and but it's assumed that they're boys. But so it's it's kind of fun that they did like a gender switch there.
They
So
do,
in this third
and
film.
if you look on IMDb, it does have them listed as Billy and Thea. So you do get that. What I do love just from seeing the IMDb is that William Sadler, who originally played Death, is coming back to play Death. That's amazing. That was such a ridiculous role, so I'm so glad to see that. Yeah, it looks fun. I don't know, man. I'm really looking forward to this.
Yeah, same here. Yeah.
Same here. Something else I'm looking forward to is the Wolfman has been cast, and it's going to be Ryan Gosling.
I'm
So
sorry, you're looking
Universal-
forward to this?
I am. Blumhouse and Universal Pictures are teamed up, and they're starting their own little like monster movie.
Dark
adaptation.
Universe, you say?
I am not using Dark Universe, A, because they're going to get sued again if they use it, and B, because it's totally different from Tom Cruise's The Mummy. I know you didn't like it, Z, which was surprising, but me and Mike really enjoyed The Invisible Man and loved the take on it. And if that's the direction that like Lee Whannell's doing, I believe they are getting Corey Finley, who directed Bad Education, which was on HBO, which was such a good movie. Highly
It was a
recommend
fun movie.
Is directing this one, another good director. So I think that if they continue down this road and just make it more intimate, more horror based, more as opposed to like this big spectacle action film like The Mummy was, but like a smaller film like The Invisible Man, like using camera angles and shots and very creepy atmosphere, I think that's going to be amazing to watch.
They should try making it good this time, because I think Invisible Man just failed at being any good.
I think
Invisible Man was great.
I agree with Dan here, especially with the route that Blumhouse is. I like their formula. Their formula is very low stakes, and I think it allows a lot of creative freedom for those involved because of those low stakes. And basically what it had done for M. Night Shyamalan's career revival for Split and for Glass. Although I wasn't a huge fan of Glass, but I really enjoyed like
Also the Visit.
yeah. Also The Visit, which I know Dan enjoyed, which I'm glad Dan enjoyed. But but I do think I think this is the right direction because I think in especially like in American horror is kind of like born in this kind of like low budget indie gore film in these basically indie horror films, and I think taking these monster films back into that direction is exactly where it belongs. And in these standalone horror pieces, and Invisible Man was a great concept. I really enjoyed how they twisted the concept and twisted the focus and made it more about a terrible relationship, abusive relationship. And I thought
Yeah, that was great.
And I think, and I'm looking forward to seeing what they do with the Wolfman. And
what if Ryan Gosling is the abuser in the story?
That's fine. I mean,
Okay.
I'm happy with as long as it's a good story and it's well crafted and everyone has their artistic freedom. Then I'm looking forward to it.
That's true. I mean, nowhere here does it really say that Gosling is the Wolfman. It's just he's cast in the Wolfman. So we'll see.
Yeah, we'll see.
Yeah, good point. And I do like that too. That our lead is not the monster. And in The Invisible Man, our lead is not the monster. And I'm hoping they continue that, where exactly as Dan said, like Ryan Gosling, maybe he's not the monster. He's the one experiencing the terror from the monster, and I'm hoping that's what this.
Well,
is.
I hope they continue like the trauma. I feel like Lee Winnell did a great job with using trauma in the film The Invisible Man. Same thing as like Mike Flanagan did in Doctor Sleep. Using trauma as a way to explain supernatural experiences, I think is such a interesting way to look at it, and I really like that aspect. Another thing that I enjoy and like, and I'm excited about, because this is a big FU to the Academy Awards, Netflix closes its deal to buy the Hollywood Egyptian Theater. So now Netflix will have a theater that they can screen their films so they can qualify to be in the Academy Awards.
Hold on. You're pointing the middle finger at the wrong person. It is not the Academy Awards that is opposed to this. It's all the other film studios. Because they're the ones who have been pressuring the movie theater chains to not accept Netflix movies.
No,
that's really what it. Yeah, because the movie theaters are afraid of touching Netflix because of the likelihood that they're taking money away from the bigger studios. So, it's a combination of that, right? The movie theaters don't want to release films that are being released at the same time due to a lack of money that they'll earn. But yeah, ultimately, this is Netflix.
The whole reason Netflix is buying this theater was because of the rules that the Academy Awards has in place.
I suppose you're right. Yeah. It does have to do with Netflix and the Academy, because the Academy, it wasn't.
I guess it's a big FU to the movie industry, basically. Everyone
but do you feel like because of COVID though? But do you feel like now the Academy, and I'm saying this predictably, the Academy will have to adapt and will have to really start to accept, streaming sources as only. If you can't do the movie theater, so you feel like this is kind of like a moot point, they didn't need to do this, we should have just waited a couple of weeks?
I think it's going to happen where we are in this time frame of what's going on, and once we reach this time frame, it's going to adapt and evolve into something else. Same thing like we did with like when 9/11 happened and flying in airports. There was not many flights afterwards, but look at how it was right before COVID-19 hit. Like everything was kind of back to normal, except you had to give yourself more time when you traveled because of the new steps that were included into flying and traveling. I think that's going to happen with cinema and theaters. Eventually, everything's going to go back, but things are going to require extra steps and whatnot. So is this an early thing? Sure. Netflix could have waited like another year probably to acquire the Egyptian theater, but in the long run, it was bound to happen anyways. So
that's true.
It happens now, happens later. It was going to happen.
I imagine. I know it was a risky move, but I think that move could have paid off, because I'm sure Egyptian theater, just like all other theaters, are suffering right now. So I'm sure they got it at a huge bargain. So if they would have waited a year, I don't think they would have probably gotten a deal as they did right now. So. Yeah.
Guys, we should have just bought that theater. We should have just gone.
Then we could have released our film in there and gotten the Academy Awards.
We would have just simply had the room running 24/7. That's
nonstop.
Nonstop.
And that's how Movie Menu gets into the Academy Awards. So it's just screening the video podcast for 24/7.
What are you guys talking about? We already won the Academy Award for Best Podcast.
That's right. You're right, Dan. Thank you for reminding us.
It's not real, but okay. Dan's like, it is.
It is real, and also real are the next movies we are about to review. And I'm going to toss the hosting duties over to my co-host, Mike Stain.
Yeah. Thank you. All right. So the movie we're reviewing is Artemis Fowl. Streaming.
Technically, the movie that only Z is reviewing.
Yeah.
I know. I actually forgot for a quick minute. Oh, it's just me doing this. Okay.
So,
Well, why is it just me again?
Because we didn't want to see it.
No, Dan,
No.
what was the reason?
Blamed you.
What was the reason again?
I watched half of it. I watched it late at night and I fell asleep.
Dan's gonna be so Dan can review half of it, and you can let us know if that half you saw, Dan, it was a dine-in. Okay, well I'll continue on, and I'll include that for you, Dan. So the movie we're reviewing is Artemis Fowl, streaming off of Disney Plus, directed by Kenneth Branagh, based on the novel by Ewan Colfer, written by Connor McPherson, stars Ferdia Shaw, Laura McDonald, and Josh Gad. Here's the plot. Artemis Fowl, a young criminal prodigy, hunts down a secret society of fairies to find his missing father. Now, depending on your spoiler-free review, Z, your full spoiler-free review, and Dan, your half review, I will decide if this movie's worth a dine-in, watch it in theaters. I guess.
Oh wait,
excuse
delivery.
Excuse me, delivery.
Yeah.
Watch it immediately. Take out curbside. Wait a while before you watch it online. We can't watch it in theaters anymore, unfortunately. Or just toss this film in the trash. Now we're not going to do points since neither of you guys are guests. So you now
that's fair.
All right. Now let me
Dan?
know how do you rate this movie? I'll go with I'm very curious. Dan, how do you rate half of this movie?
So I ended up watching this movie super late at nights because I also am producing another podcast, by the way. So I was getting ready for that. And after I did that, I was watching this movie.
Get on with it.
I was super enjoying it because it's such a delivery for the first half. Just kidding. It's total leftovers.
Wow. Okay.
Yep.
Z?
It does not get any better from there. The beginning portion, it's funny because the beginning of the movie, I was like, they might actually pull this off.
We should mention that Colin Farrell is the father. So
we shouldn't because he's barely in the movie. But yeah, this movie's The Leftovers. It is pretty atrocious. And I, as a fan of the Artemis Fowl books, I worked with kids, and they introduced me to the stories, and I was like, "Oh, this is so stupid." But I started reading it, and what I liked about the Artemis Fowl's character was completely removed from the story. The whole mythology around the fairies was completely neutered, and it almost feels like whoever wrote this movie, Connor McPherson, I want to check what he did, because he honestly did not read the books. He didn't understand the characters. And it just feels like it is the biggest. I mean, I don't understand how Kenneth Branagh is even attached to this. Let alone all the actors who are in this.
Kenneth Branagh, I think the last good movie he made was like the first Thor, and then everything he's made after has not been a hit.
He made. No, that's not true. He did a Cinderella, so he did actually do a big blockbuster with that one. But as far as like this guy who wrote it, he has not done anything that's remotely.
Kenneth Branagh also did Jack Ryan, the Jack Ryan film with Chris Pine.
Yeah,
just a reminder.
Well, but that movie wasn't as bad as what this was. This movie was pretty awful. I mean, I'm glad he kept himself out of it because he always puts himself in his movies. But honestly, this movie, as a fan of the books and a fan of the character, if I want to give you like a kind of like an archetype, he really is like a Moriarty character from Sherlock Holmes. He's this not evil, but he's definitely like a criminal mastermind who really does work to get infiltrated into the fairies. This movie gets rid of the whole thing. It completely erases all of that. the part in the books that I thought was amazing and that really told a very caring story is that the mom has memory issues because she's going through Alzheimer's. And in the books, he cures her with what he does in the first books. In this movie, they killed her completely. They got completely rid of her because, as you were saying, Colin Farrell, the only other Irish actor in this movie, it gets brought in and he takes over for that emotional center. It doesn't work. He's barely in the movie. He's probably in the movie for about 15 minutes. And while Ferdia Shaw Ferdia Shaw is the boy, or is that no? Sorry, I'm trying to see. Ferdia Shaw is the boy. I think he does a great job. I think he looks the part. He does the part really well. But you can tell that he wasn't pulling his weight with the amount of shots in between it. And that gets to the other portion of this movie, is that the pacing of this movie is completely off. It does feel like it went back to reshoots. It doesn't feel like it's one movie. It feels like a huge narrative. While it's an hour and a half long, you feel like you're there for about 2 hours and 30 minutes. And this movie just sucks. Don't watch it. I honestly wish I was drinking this. Yeah.
No, Josh Gad is in this movie. How is he?
Oh yeah. Oh, sorry. Did you not get to that part? Did you fall asleep before that?
No, I mean, I know he was like narrating the film, basically.
Yeah, he narrates the film because, of course, you need somebody to explain it. He plays Mulch Diggums, and how does he do? He's basically Hagrid, as if he's got like a very Batman voice. He's like, but you can still hear the Josh Gad goofy voice coming out, and it's like, okay, pick a lane, dude. You look great in the part, but you're not really doing a great job. If you got to any portion of the story, Mulch Diggums can dislocate his jaw, and that's the CGI thing that I put on the poster for this. It looks terrible. It doesn't look anywhere near. It looks like Harry Potter 2 level of CGI. Wow. And then the character, and this is what I love about the character, he can dig, he can funnel into the ground, and then he shoots everything out of his ass. And it's the funniest thing in the books because he uses it as a weapon. Projectile farting. And in this one, honestly, it is the easiest joke he can pull, and there's no joke about it. It doesn't get used correctly. So Josh Gad is in there, but he's just in there. He's just hanging out. I kind of feel like Dame Judi Dench was forced by gunpoint to be in this movie. Because she was in Cats, and then she was in this. It's like, wow, Judy, poor Dame Judi Dench. And she looks like she is being like. There's a moment in which, and it's in a trailer, where they point guns at her, and I almost feel like that was like the real version of Jane. Like she just was like, I'm being forced to do this, guys, help me. Like I'm sure, like she was blink. If I watch the movie again, which I won't, but I'm pretty sure if you watch her blinking, it says SOS, please rescue me, because she looks like she is in a mess of a movie and can't get out of it. Sorry, what else do you need to hear from me? Because I will get.
You're really selling me, Z. I really want to see this movie. No.
Oh, good. I'm glad. Let's see. The directing, as I said, it is pretty freaking bad.
How's the okay, so I'm playing devil's advocate, I guess, because I did see half of it. But how did you enjoy the CGI in the film?
Like I said, it was Harry Potter 2 bad. I don't understand how a movie that gets pushed back as much as it didn't get the Cats treatment of going back and redoing the CGI and fixing all the clunky problems. They just couldn't do that. It doesn't work. Also, even though it's a different studio, but how can have the CGI capabilities of the Avengers and everything in the Marvel Cinematic Universe and not have it for their main staple head company that is Disney? Well, I think that's just literally the failing of Disney. I don't think their studios talk to each other. And you can tell. You can really tell. I mean, if we go back to one of the interviews that we did with CGI artists, a lot of the CGI that they do gets contracted out. So there's not one person who's really overseeing it. It's multiple departments working it different independently. And not to say that they didn't do a hard job, that they did that they tried really hard. There are some scenes in this movie where the CGI looks great, but honestly, it's bad. There's a fight scene with an ogre and it looks like garbage. Again, it looks like Harry Potter 2. It's really bad. Yeah, there's no character growth in this movie. The characters are who they are. You don't learn anything about them. I think they were trying to set the movie up for a sequel. Oh, I'm sorry. There's a bad guy in this movie. I forgot about that. Yeah, there's a reason why this is all happening. And this bad guy, you never see her. You never actually get to know what the character is except for her name. And her name, in the books, it's goofy because they're all, fairies. But, like, you honestly see her and you're like, this is what you can do with it. And you know what? As a point of like talking about Black Lives Matter, there are two black or people of color in this movie. One is used incredibly badly. That's Nonso Anonzi. And he plays Butler, who, guess what his job is, Mike?
They're gonna make him a waiter or something terrible.
Yeah, no, he was a butler. He's a butler. Yeah. I'm sorry. There's three. I forgot. There's a third. There's a child in this movie. Yeah, and I think that they're all used incredibly badly, poorly, and honestly, like at a time in which we're talking about, people of color in the representation and stories, and you're using a fairy landscape. You can just easily blend things. This movie treats people of color like they're just props, and there's nothing more than that. I mean, what else do you want to hear? This movie's shit.
I think. Go on.
No,
go ahead, Dan.
I was going to say, you had mentioned that it's because I didn't watch the ending, so that it does sets itself for a sequel. Do you think that it might get one, or
no? And
if so, because this was originally supposed to be released in theaters, and because of the pandemic, it got switched to being released on Disney Plus. Do you think the sequel would be in theaters? If so.
No, I think this movie was destined to bomb, and I think they knew it. I think that they knew ahead of time. Once the trailer got released and Reddit saw it, and I follow the Reddit because I do like the books. The art is amazing. It's really cool. But once it got released, all the fans panned it, and currently it sits at 40% on Rotten Tomatoes. It would not have gotten a sequel. The kids would not have known who to follow in this story. The movie's called Artemis Fowl, but you really don't know whether or not you should follow Artemis Fowl or not. Like, the great thing about his character was that he was like this character you couldn't really get to understand and love and really get to, but over the books, over the stories, you do get to love him. The character you get bought into is the fairy, and she honestly plays a second fiddle to Artemis Fowl. It's not. Yeah, I don't think it would have gotten a sequel. I don't think if had it been released in theaters, nobody was going to watch it. And I think that Disney Plus did the right thing. They shoveled their shit into their existing product and didn't charge people for it, which I'm glad for, because I didn't want to pay for this movie. More so than the Disney Plus,
Gotcha.
Good. So you didn't have to pay for anything. Yay.
Agreed.
Unfortunately, I think I've heard enough, and it's still leftovers, so don't toss it in the trash.
I wish you watched it, Mike, because I think you would have been the only one who would have said that you liked this movie. Because your taste wavers.
I agree with that.
But I'm wondering, Z, if this was a rom-com, would you have enjoyed it?
You know what? If it's done right, then yes. So I'm sorry, man, but like rom-coms at least have a formula that works. Made for TV teen movies do not. They just haven't been able to recreate Harry Potter.
Again, I'm gonna plug our spin-off show. The episode 3 of Movie Menu Classics dives into 2 rom-coms. One of the first granddaddies of rom-coms. So definitely check that out on our website as well.
I'll keep that in mind.
So I would like to go ahead and hand the hosting duties back over to Dan. So thank you very much. Artemis Fowl, leftovers. Don't watch it.
Thank you, Mike, for hosting that. Thank you, Z, for reviewing it. And thank me for everything else. Screw
you guys, seriously.
Let's move on to the next review. And to do that, I'm going to toss the hosting duties over to Z.
Oh, okay. I have to be awake for this part. Okay. All right. So the movie we're reviewing is The King of Staten Island, right? That's what we're reviewing?
That is correct.
Sorry. I just pulled a Dan and fell asleep halfway through it. Directed by Judd Apatow and written by Judd Apatow and Pete Davidson, starring Pete Davidson, Belle Powley and Rick Vellis, but I'm sure there's multiple artists that are in this movie. We'll talk about them. We'll talk about
Pete Davidson, Marissa Tomei, and Bill Burr. And also, you can stream this off Amazon Prime or Apple TV.
There we go. Here's the plot. Scott has been a case of arrested development since his firefighter dad died. He spends his days smoking weed and dreaming of being a tattoo artist until events force him to grapple with his grief and take his first steps forward in life. All right. So once again, depending on the spoiler-free review, I will decide this movie is worth a delivery, watch it immediately, a curbside pickup, wait and watch it whenever, or leftovers, toss this film in the trash. No points, so go ahead and rate this film. Dan?
It's definitely a delivery, though it is pricey because it's a full $19.99 to rent right now. Mm-hmm. But it is a very, very well done movie that, honestly, I'm a little sad that I didn't get to watch in theaters.
Okay, Mike?
I'm gonna say curbside. I'm gonna say wait a bit.
Okay.
And I think, and it's weird. It's not fair because like these films, like each film that comes out, they're different prices. So, and a part of it is because, exactly as Dan said, it's priced at $20 pretty much. So. Okay,
so for you, the price of entry is a little too much. Even though, had you paid for this movie in a movie theater, obviously you wouldn't have because. But if you had to go see the movie in a theater and pay for it, would that have been worth it?
It would have been. It would have been worth $12. Yeah, but I think I feel like there's kind of like I don't know. I think they priced it too high, to be honest.
Okay.
Well,
all right.
A lot of these movies are priced high, but this film I feel like because it's an independent film, and. In the sense where even though Judd Apatow directed it and he co-wrote it with Pete Davidson, it's still kind of an indie film, but it's also well done, and I was okay supporting it.
All right, so tell me what works in this movie for you, Dan.
Okay, so I am not a Pete Davidson fan so much.
I'm not a Judd Apatow fan or a Pete Davidson fan, so you've got a long way to go here.
Well, I think Judd Apatow is doing a great job where his movies his style of movies are evolving. It goes with like Trainwreck was one of his films that you didn't even really know that Judd Apatow directed that film. Nowhere does it really say Judd Apatow directed that film because Judd Apatow is known for like Knocked Up. The other film
he's known for making burnout beta individuals getting somewhere in life. That's literally his formula.
And I feel like his movies are now becoming more evolved in the sense they are like someone going through some type of inner turmoil and trying to discover themselves and who they really are, even though they're complete assholes. Like Amy Schumer was such a bitch in Trainwreck, but you loved her for it. Pete Davidson is like a manic, crazy person, but he's still kind of charming and enjoyable to watch. And the story is also like relatable. Like Pete Davidson in real life lost his father, who was a firefighter. Right. So the story is very personal to him. And the film, you see how him losing his father at a young age to a fire really like fucked up his life. And you can't, it's so hard to be mad at someone who is so fucked up in that life after they've gone through something like that. So what
you're trying to say is that it justifies his behavior by showing you does it show that portion of his life beforehand, or do you see him just being an asshole in the beginning and then you get the story through the movie?
You hear other people talking about it, about him losing his father and whatnot, and you see him reacting. Him like trying to be like the cool guy, like not giving too much shit about it, but deep down, like when people look away, he's like really hurt or like not as cool as with it as he thinks it. But he also does a really good job. Like you and I, we worked him at the house, and he really has some really fucked up issues. He does a really good job. I'm gonna ask
Mike the same question. Mike, what do you think of Judd Apatow's formula? Do you feel like he's evolved it? Do you feel like he's actually tried to get beyond the burnout hero story? Because it kind of feels like to me like he's always done the same story over and over, just with different actors.
This is a very similar story to your Judd Apatow films, but it does have its own unique charm, and I think it's Pete Davidson that brings that extra charm to it. And I think it's brought because Pete Davidson brings those personal elements to it. As Dan had mentioned, it's like also loosely based on his life and what he had gone through himself and his own things in real life that he's experienced. I believe last year he had made a comment on Twitter about wanting to commit suicide, and a lot of people immediately reached out to him and helped him out, and later on he even made jokes about it on SNL because he's a writer on SNL about it. So so this is kind of like a continued reflection of that, of seeing like this real turmoil that he's experienced. And as Dan had mentioned, Pete Davidson does such a good job because I think he knows this character very well because it's him. It's a lot of it is him. But I think it's very well acted. So not only with Pete Davidson, but Marissa Tomei, our cast, it's a great cast. But your main question that you had asked, is this like a burnout film? Like, it is very much like if you were to pull out in certain scenes, I wouldn't say in this whole film, but there are moments that are very similar to, like, I would say like Knocked Up, but it's your typical Judd Apatow, like people sitting in a basement smoking weed, not doing much, and making jokes.
And that's kind of that's.
I disagree in the sense, like, yeah, we see them smoking pot, but it's not like in doing so you learn about, like, you know, the relationships that Pete Davidson and his friends have, and like there's this girl as well that he's known forever, and how they establish their friendship or whatever. But it's not. We don't just watch like Seth Rogen would be just smoking, and that's it. Like, that's the scene. But no, we hear conversations, we hear stuff going on. It's not, the pot is all just in the background, but you hear the story in the foreground.
I feel like, for me, I feel like this film could have, especially, I would say, like the first half of the film, I feel like could have easily been edited down. I feel like the film doesn't truly start until like 40 or 50 minutes in, and that was only until, and it's a long film, it's over 2 hours, and only until then did I feel like more vested in, like, during almost the first half of the film, like it's kind of tough to watch someone like wallow in their and be an asshole to everybody at the same time, and and so this character is definitely, the character definitely starts off as an anti-hero, but there is character development, and it does evolve, and you do see some beautiful connections happen throughout the film, and Bill Burr, he really brings it in this as well, and so does Marissa Tomei, and I think the chemistry between all of them are fantastic, and once you get all three of them on screen, I feel like that's definitely worth watching. And honestly, I was very surprised with Bill Burr's performance. I thought he did very well. I was like,
even Steve Buscemi is so good in this movie. He's so likable.
Okay, I mean, he's likable. He's a likable person, but okay. Well, yeah, I mean, you've already addressed my biggest issue with Apatow's movie style, which is like the pacing. Tell me about the acting. Dan, you haven't mentioned anything about, like, beyond Steve Buscemi. How's the acting for you? Does it feel like it's like top notch? Do you feel like?
Yeah, it definitely. They do a really good job. It's believable. I believe this family. I believe that Pete Davidson's character has been such an asshole to his sister, who's played by Maude Apatow, who's Judd Apatow's daughter, and Marissa Tomei, who's the mother. But them, like, walking on eggshells around him because he's so like ready to explode at any moment, having like anger issues and having emotional issues. Not able to control himself. It's really well. It's really believable. Like, it's not so much like we're watching like a film. I really do feel like there's like Pete Davidson is really laying us into his life, like how he was or how he is. It didn't seem like he was acting or trying to be this character. It was just him, like, really being vulnerable in front of the camera, which was very interesting to watch, and a nice emotional connection to anyone who has lost a parent, so they can relate.
Yeah. Okay. I'm going to ask this question to Dan because obviously we both work in the mental health field. How do you feel this movie deals with its subject matter? Like I'm assuming they dive a little bit into his depression. How do you feel this movie tackles that? Does it make it a joke? Does it not really treat it correctly? What do you think?
it's not treated like a joke, I would say, but the character doesn't necessarily like seek so much help. He does. Other people poke fun of it. It's like if you make a joke about it, so you can laugh at it, so no one else makes fun of you about it, kind of thing. Does that make sense?
Okay.
But they don't actually don't even do that either. They just do. It's an interesting way to see watching Pete Davidson interact with other people, because it's just like you see his mind just racing and just like being okay 1 minute to like shouting to the top of his lungs the next, because he's triggered about something or something like upsets him so quick.
This movie reminds me a little bit of what was that movie?
Silver Linings Playbook.
Yes, thank you. How do you
Playbook,
feel? Like, do you feel like this will be a good pairing with this movie?
I think I would say Silver Linings Playbook is a little bit more. I think it's more serious, and I think it.
Yeah.
Although I mean, not that this film is not that The King of Staten Island is not serious, but I think there's a lot of Judd Apatow humor in it that kind of like dulls the harshness of the content a little bit, and even like. I felt like there were like missed heartwarming moments as well that were kind of it's involved without giving away any spoilers. I was like, I wish they didn't do that joke. I wish they just would have went all in and like all in seriousness and just kind of let.
Are you talking about the back?
Yes, okay. I am. And I'm sorry, we're talking in Code Z. We're trying not to spoil.
It's fine.
But,
it's fine.
But I feel like it was a very good opportunity for it to be a heartwarming moment, and I feel like they went the cheap route instead, and like they made it a joke.
I don't think it was a cheap route. I think it was true to the character. The character is not gonna. I think it's so true to the character.
I think it. I don't know. Because like it was like a. I felt like it was a setup. They set it up that way, and then they deliver it. I'm sorry, Z. I know we're not being very clear.
No, but the thing is, I feel like it would be so unrealistic if it wasn't the joke there.
Okay. I guess
like
me and Ben disagree, but
like yes, it would be beautiful if it was the serious moment and the whole thing that happened. But I think with the joke that around it, I feel like it was true to his character.
Okay.
All right. Any final thoughts? I think I've heard enough. Unless there's anything else. I mean, final thoughts.
I say watch it. If you don't want to watch it for the $19.99, you can wait till it comes out for $5.99 for rental or whatever. But I think it's a good watch.
Yeah, I think you'll enjoy this, and in general, if you're a fan of Judd Apatow's other films, you'll enjoy this, as well as Pete Davidson and Bill Burr. I think the performances are great. The story is great. The character arcs are also great and charming. I think the film. I wish the film was edited down a little bit more, especially the first half. I think it was priced too high, and I would say to wait till it's brought down.
Sounds good. All right. I'm going to say that this movie is, I feel bad just because, like, personally, I'm not going to be, like, rushing to watch this, so I wouldn't do a delivery. So I'm going to say I'm going to go with curbside. I'm going to be a little bit, $20 is a lot to pay for a 2 hour and 15 minute movie.
It is. I agree.
Yeah. So I'm going to go with that. I'm going to go with curbside pickup. Wait and let it get cheaper before you decide to dive in. You know what? It might be a little bit sour or a little run down, but it's okay because you get what you paid for. And I would rather get something that's mediocre and makes my stomach upset than pay $20 and have a stomachache. I'm just saying. I love milkshakes, but I'm not going to pay $20 for a milkshake.
All right, let's move on from there, please. So I guess I'll take
out of context.
I guess I'll take the hosting duty. I guess I'll take the hosting duties back. So let's go ahead and move on to the final review. And I am the one that will be hosting it. Surprise, surprise. So the final film that we're reviewing is The Five Bloods, streaming on Netflix, directed by Spike Lee. Written by Danny Bilson, Paul DiMeo, Kevin Wilmot, and Spike Lee. Here's the plot. 4 African-American vets battle the forces of man and nature when they return to Vietnam seeking the remains of their fallen squad leader and the gold fortune he helped them hide. Starring Delroy Lindo, Jonathan Majors, Clark Peters, Norm Lewis, Isaiah Whitlock Jr., and Chadwick Boseman. All right, guys. So I have not seen this film, and I think Mike, you didn't either. So you'll be my co-host.
I did not.
Wait, didn't you watch half this? Wait, hold on. Didn't you watch half this movie as well?
Not half. Probably like the first 30 minutes.
Okay. Do you want to review your first 30 minutes?
No. So Z, okay. Depending on your full spoiler review,
yeah.
Me and Mike would just say this movie worth a delivery, watch it immediately, a curbside pickup, wait and watch it whenever, or leftovers, toss this film in the trash. Go ahead and rate this film. All
right, I'm gonna say this. All right, this movie is like as I was saying about a milkshake, right? It depends.
Let's not go back to milkshake.
Hold on. It depends if you're in the mood. And I mean this in the sense of the movie is 2 hours and change. It really does take a long way to get to the story. And I honestly, like most Spike Lee films, it really doesn't care about the story. Spike Lee films notoriously have never been about the film itself. It's been about the context in which the film is taking place, which is phenomenal. I think that's amazing storytelling for an indie and for a very avant-garde director. But he's Spike Lee, and Spike Lee can make a big-ass movie like this. So I would say that if you're in the mood for a little bit of more Black history and you really want to kind of deep dive into, and not even deep dive, just kind of be watching footnotes of what happened in the Vietnam War, this movie does that. And I think it's an interesting story. In the first 15, 30 minutes of the movie, it does set up the whole plot. It really does talk about, they're talking about how, some white guy trying to find some vets in Vietnam, shit, no white guy can do that. And this movie is essentially a Black Rambo. That's what you're watching. You're watching, 5 people who are African American going back to Vietnam, and they're on a mission to rescue the bones of their fallen comrade. And there is so much intergenerational trauma that's going on between each of these different characters and their son. One son is there, and I love that they brought the son on there. But it really does require you to pay attention. You will potentially push pause and go, wait, who was that guy? Because there's a lot of Spike Lee-isms where they'll flash footage of present time and they will show you what they're talking about, from a historical perspective. I think Spike Lee works really well. I feel like Spike Lee would be a great novelist because he really does have a lot of footnotes. And the guy's brilliant. He really will go through a list of things and you won't even be able to keep up because he knows Black history so well. And so this movie does take a long road to get to the Rambo of the story. And I don't think that story is amazing, but I also don't want to take away from it because it's also a lot of fun to watch because it's a little bit like Rambo. It's also a little bit like The Expendables because they're all old farts. And they're all having a difficult time. So it's just a lot of that going on. And I personally, I liked it, but I wouldn't say rush out to watch it. I think it does what Spike Lee does. And I think Dan will fall asleep watching it within 30 minutes. But you should finish watching it. You should finish watching it.
I do plan on finishing watching it. Don't watch movies super late and try to clear your schedules when you're watching movies.
Agreed. I never watch movies super late. I watch them noon till 5 p.m. That's my usual go time. So this movie does a really good job of telling its story about intergenerational trauma. Each of the individuals, so you got Delroy Lindo, you got Jonathan Majors, you got Clark Peters, who is phenomenal in it because if you know anything about Clark Peters, he was in The Wire. He was amazing in that. You have Isaiah Whitlock in there. And, it really does an amazing job of just telling you each of the different experiences. I love Delroy Lindo because he plays an African-American ex-vet who voted for Donald Trump. And it gives you a different perspective as to why somebody who is a minority would vote for Donald Trump. And I don't think it shies away from that. And it does make it into a joke. There's a moment in which like they're in an altercation, and the thing that sets off the argument is that the guy who's talking to him notices he's wearing a MAGA hat and just takes the MAGA hat, throws it on the ground, and like attempts to kill him. And it's like that's the reality, right? Like that's the whole world sees America as this place of hate, and you see a black man wearing that, and all of a sudden it initiates. It also talks about the intergenerational trauma that the Vietnam War had in America on Vietnamese. I think that's the other part that I thought was really interesting, is that it really does take its moment to talk about, well, African American soldiers went to war in Vietnam. The Vietnamese, just like the Germans, I don't know if you know anything about history, but the Germans also appealed to African Americans during World War I and World War II to come over to their side, because they kept on saying the same thing that every African American knew, that you're being forced to die in a war for a country that will never give you your freedom. And it really does have that dialogue of how the Vietnamese were more accepting of African Americans. There's a moment in which a Vietnamese character, a woman says, "We learned the N-word from your white Americans. We learned how to hate from them." And you're just kind of like, oh shit, like it's real. It really does go very real. And so, yeah, I want to say that it just depends. It depends on where you're at in your day if you are watching it at 3 a.m. And if you're able and capable of following along, it really does. The symbology in this movie is over the top. This movie will be taught in school. So if anything, watch the movie for an academic lesson in filmmaking. I still think Black Klansman was a better movie, narratively, but I think this movie's still fun to watch.
Awesome.
That's good.
Very well done. With the description of that, Z.
Thank you.
I agree. I think for me, any final thoughts? Or Mike, do you want to ask anything?
No, go ahead, Dan.
Oh no, I was just saying. I think that was a good take on the film, and I feel like it is probably going to be worth a curbside pickup. Wait and watch it whenever you have a chance.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, like most African American real deep dives, like the 13th, for example, you can't watch it all at once just because you're seeing the world from a different perspective, and you really have to take your time to do it. I personally, I became engrossed. I didn't stop watching this movie. I actually finished it. But I thought that if I took this movie in parts, it would have been a little bit easier to ingest, just because it was just so much. Another side note, what I love is that they hired Vietnamese actors from Vietnam to play their counterparts. I love that. I thought that was really, really awesome of Spike Lee to say, you know what? I'm going to reflect. I'm going to show you. I'm going to hire a black Vietnamese actress to play a certain role in this story. And I thought that was really, really cool, because it highlights a different portion of the Vietnam War that we don't talk about. The war of the oppressed. Like, it's one step further than that. And it's really, really interesting. So take your time with it. It's a good movie.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Z, for reviewing this.
Doing my job. You're welcome. You're welcome, man.
Someone has to.
I mean, hey.
So here at Movie Menu Reviews, we say Artemis Fowl, Leftovers, The King of Staten Island, curbside pickup. Wait and watch it whenever you get a chance. Preferably if it goes down in price for rental, like $5.99, or if it ends up streaming on Amazon Prime for free or anywhere else. And also the Five Bloods. And,
the Five Blood.
Yeah, the Five Bloods. Also a curbside pickup. Wait and watch it whenever you can in order to digest it, in order to or ingest it, I should say, and take your time watching the film. Thank you so much, Z and Mike, for being part of the show again.
Oh, you forgot we have the In Case You Missed It segment.
Oh, we do. I will toss that Over to my co-host, Mike Stand, right about now.
All right. Thank you for mentioning of it. So In Case You Missed It film, I highly recommend you guys watch this. It's called It Started as a Joke, directed by Julie Smith Clem and Ken Duckerman, written by Ian Black, Wyatt Cenac, and Joe Firestone. So the plot is a look at the decade-long run of Eugene Merman's Comedy Film Festival in Brooklyn, the alternative comedy scene in New York, and also Eugene's personal life. So if you're not familiar with Eugene Merman, he's one of the voiceover actors for Bob's Burgers. He plays the son. He speaks for the son Gene. So Eugene Merman. So and the cast, some of the cast from Bob's Burgers are actually in this film as well. Louise, who is spoken by comedian and voiceover actor Christian Shaw, who's a very funny comedian as well. She's in this, as well as H. John Benjamin, who speaks for Bob from Bob's Burgers, and you also may know him for the voiceover actor for Archer, if you're a fan of that show.
He's Coach McGurk in home movies. But go on.
Yeah, he's also Coach McGurk in home movies, exactly. And he was also the son in Dr. Katz. So all of those. All of those comedians are from that same camp. So, but we get an amazing guest cast in here. You get, aside from the ones I already mentioned, you also get Ira Glass, Bobcat Goldthwait, Kumail Nanjiani, Michael Showalter, Reggie Watts, Mike Birbiglia, Michael Ian Black, if I haven't already mentioned that, Wyatt Cenac, and Joe Firestone, the three writers.
Cool.
And I think it just talks about how important Eugene Merman and the comedy festival he created, how important it was for the alternative comedy scene in New York at that time, and how it helped out a lot of those comedians. Kumail Nanjiani talks about it as well, and you get to see the just how much fun these comedians had being a part of this festival each year, and it's fun to watch. So if you're a fan of alternative comedy and a fan of any of these comedians I have mentioned, I highly recommend it. It's only a $5 rental on Amazon. If you want to own it, it's only $8. It's a very, very fun watch, and there are some heavier topics such as cancer and you get a look into Eugene Merman's personal life as well, which I've never known. So, but I highly recommend checking out this film. Dine in.
Cool.
Awesome.
Watch it as soon as you can.
Cool.
Delivery.
Thank you for that.
Delivery. Thanks, Dan. Delivery.
Thank you, Mike, and thank you, Z. So that'll do it for us here at Movie Menu Reviews. You got 3 reviews from us, guys, and a ton of movie news. So what a great show we had tonight.
Well, it's 2 weeks worth of it of reviews, right?
Basically, and we'll
take 2 more weeks off. Oh, okay, next week.
No, we'll be back next week with a new episode of Movie Menu Reviews. Thank you so much, Z. Thank you so much, Mike.
You're welcome.
And make sure to visit our website, moviemenupodcast.com. Also, subscribe, like, share, comment, rate, and review us on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, SoundCloud, Spotify, or wherever you listen to podcasts. That would be very helpful. Follow us on social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. And also check out our other shows. We have a new spin-off show called Movie Menu Classics, your go-to podcast for classic cinemas, hosted by Heather McLean and Vasily Leaf. They do a great job deep diving into classic films. We released our 3rd episode. The 3rd episode deals with It Happened One Night and Roman Holiday, the rom-coms of the classic films. And they discuss how they actually make a great double feature, and they discuss a bunch of things as well. And also, Movie Menu Interviews, we have a new interviews out. We have another one coming out very soon, so make sure to check our website out for a bunch of content out there to entertain, and hopefully you guys enjoy. Let us know. We will greatly appreciate it. So until next time, I'm Dan the Man, signing off. Goodbye.
2, 3, 4.